Yesterday or a few days ago, I wrote a blog where I stated that both the media and the Democratic Party committed malpractice, for this election. Kamala should not have lost the election, and worse is these entities were complicit, not necessarily that they wanted that to happen, but just for their dereliction of duty. First of all, we understand that the mainstream media is no friend of neither progressives or the Democratic Party. In fact, they serve one purpose and one purpose only: to give just superficial information and information that will not prove very damaging to their benefactors, meaning to the people who advertise on their networks. So we don't really get the in-depth analysis of what's going on. If you take a look at Donald Trump and what he has represented for eons, there is no way he would have even become close to being a candidate for president. But again, we know that this country affords certain people privileges that others will never get, that others can never attain, and thus others have to work twice as hard for half as much. Now, that a snippet of this comes out in a newspaper and that it is broadcast on MSNBC, what's considered one of the stations that are more likely to print or post or talk about issues that are more progressive, if you will. It was great to see that at least they touched on the story that was one of the reasons why many people didn't come out to vote, because of a psychological impact of certain ads, not only on TV, but elsewhere, because I saw them and I've spoken about them before. So what are we talking about? We're talking about targeted micro-targeting. In effect, sending different ads specifically to different people by class, by race, by culture, etc., and targeting that message. In the case of what Trump's put out, lies about things that they know would cause select folks in that group to either attenuate or stop the voting altogether. And if you take a look at our voting patterns this year relative to 2020, when we have big issues, it kind of gives you a reason why. So yes, the thing about it is that Trump had all the right to lie. He had all the right to put this kind of messaging out, because that's just how our silly country works. We allow people to lie and damage no matter what under the pretext of free speech. I think free speech should also be coaxed with free, truthful speech, not free lies that can have material effects on people. But I didn't write the Constitution. Now, I want you to listen to this speech because I think it was fairly well done. And I think if we understand what's going on here, we should also ask why it is that the party, the Democratic Party, and the media hadn't talked about this way before. In other words, when folks saw these ads going on, why didn't they come out and knock them for what they were? Not just propaganda, but in effect, psychological warfare. Check this out, and then we'll take it at the other side.
Today, we're learning new details about a dark money effort that provides a warning and could change political campaigns going forward. It's the Washington Post reporting $45 million spent by advisors to Elon Musk for ads that targeted liberals, Jews, Muslims, black voters, with ads that were not quite what they seemed in the run-up to last week's election between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Here are a few other ads.
Kamala Harris and D.C. Democrats are coming after your menthol cigarettes.
The worst part is, Kamala Harris talks out of both sides of her mouth. She said she'd give us free health care. Then she gave up.
It's so disappointing.
Yeah, total 180 from when she ran in 2020. I thought she'd be like Bernie.
Joining me now, one of the reporters behind that story, Michael Shear of the Washington Post. It's always good to see you, Michael. This is really a window, I think, into what can be done now, what's being done, and what might happen in the future. Tell us more about these ads and how they were designed to work.
Yeah, so these ads come out of research that started at the beginning of the year that basically concluded on the Republican side what Democrats had also been seeing, which is there weren't a lot of persuadable voters in this election. Really, the persuasion targets were progressives or conservatives, Trump or Harris voters who weren't sure whether or not they would vote. So most of these ads focused on trying to influence whether or not someone voted. And they did it by concealing why they were advertising, or sort of doing a shuck and jive here to deceive people into knowing what they were advertising. So, Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan were getting ads that looked like ads targeted towards Zionists. The aim was to make them think that Kamala Harris was totally in the pocket of the Israeli government, had no sympathy for the Palestinian cause. On the flip side, the same group was advertising to Jews in Pennsylvania, saying that she doesn't want to give arms to Israel. You just showed one of the ads there. There's a whole series of ads targeted at Bernie Sanders supporters, and the message there was she should be more left. She should be further left. And there was another set of ads from a group that was called Progress 2028 that sort of misled people about what her positions were, made her seem far more liberal than she was, and it was targeted at conservative voters.
You reported that the goal here was to make up, in a way, for being outspent by Democrats in the digital space. What does this portend for the future for campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, campaigns have been deceptive for as long as there have been campaigns, so that's not new. What is new is the ability to target ads so specifically. Digital advertising, a lot of this was direct mail and digital. The data that the campaigns and the outside groups have about who voters are and what interests them has just become incredibly good over, the last 3 or 4 cycles. And so you really know what motivates an individual voter, and you can serve those individuals or those neighborhoods or those communities directly on Google, on Facebook, with direct mail. And so I think that's what's going on here. I mean, this was one group spending $45 million through 5 or 6 different brands and a dozen different messages. I mean, I haven't mentioned that there were ads that sort of looked like progressive ads running at Black voters in North Carolina, complaining about Biden and Harris efforts to ban menthol cigarettes. There were also, other ads run at white voters in the Midwest, young, working class white voters who basically, made the claim that if Harris is elected, your Zyn nicotine pouches will be taken away. So, all of this was done at sort of the micro level. And I mean, the other innovation here, and this has only been true for a few cycles now, is we don't know who paid for this. This was a dark money group paid for, with a 501c4 group. And so there's just no way of knowing exactly who was behind that.
So yes, Kamala Harris lost the election. Why did she lose? There are a lot of factors. We know the main factor why she lost had nothing to do with policy. We know it had everything to do with gender and race. That is a primary reason why there are some people that were cauterized to vote for a thug, a criminal, a convicted felon, because they figured that's their only choice. Because again, if you trigger certain carnalities within people, that's what you're going to get. But secondly, the psychological warfare that was played on millions of Americans via the TV, via targeted marketing, whether it's by snail mail, whether it be internet and elsewhere, targeted, micro-targeting. Obama did some of that, but Obama micro-target wasn't done in a deceitful manner with lies. What positive micro-targeting does is it puts a message with maybe a cultural fling, maybe a class fling, so that the ad actually speaks to you Because again, if you're a president for everybody and you believe in the tenets that you really support, you will be wanting your message to reach everybody, because hopefully everybody in your domain would be doing just fine. So folks, this was not rocket science. This is something that should be known. Unfortunately, many of the people who run these campaigns, they're not in it for necessarily winning or losing. Yes, they want to win, but they get paid whether they win or lose. It is the activists out there working for each of these campaigns and unpaid volunteers, the unpaid volunteers that are there busting their butts and feel the pain when all the work that they've done, they've lost. Just today, I got a call from somebody a good friend who said they intended to start doing more. They're going to continue their activism, but was so down because of all the work they put in. And to her, it was work that was wasted. Of course it wasn't. Of course it wasn't. In fact, we have to stay in the game. We have to make sure to continue what was started.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.